Right now, though, Mr. Dave Workman, the Seattle Gun Rights Examiner, joins us on the program to talk a little Fast and Furious. Dave, good evening to you, sir.
How you doing, Cam?
It's just this story just keeps getting stranger and stranger.
Well, the week started off with a bang. I just wonder what's going to happen by Friday.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you've got now Representative Issa says it could issue subpoenas this week.
Yeah.
A blistering letter to Attorney General Eric Holder that was released today.
Mm-hmm.
You had Pittsburgh Post-Gazette columnist Jack Kelly over the weekend who said, quote, "It's time for Congress to impeach Attorney General Eric Holder." And frankly, it seems like while a lot of these friendly news outlets to the administration, Dave, continue to try to ignore this, the story's still getting out there, and the excuses just don't add up from the administration.
Well, yeah, and that seems to be the crux of this whole issue. Their stories keep changing, just like shifting sands, and when at the end of the day, nothing that they say adds up. This letter that Holder sent to select members of Congress on Friday started off by claiming that, hey, I didn't do it, I don't know nothing, I wasn't there.
Right.
And then he shifts real quickly to the typical mantra of the left-wing anti-gun crowd. He blames gun laws. He demands that Congress do something to strengthen gun laws. He says that the weak gun laws are the problem, that Congress is at fault for Fast and Furious because it got out of hand. Everybody should know by now that I think the cornerstone of the entire Obama administration is the pointing finger, and it's always pointing at somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't bring themselves to acknowledge, hey, we made a mistake, we screwed up, we were wrong. And Issa's letter today really nailed it. The last sentence in that letter just told Eric Holder, hey, you own this thing. Whether you like it or not, you own this scandal, this fiasco.
Yeah, and Holder has gone through a couple of different excuses where he said, I didn't know anything at all about it. Well, I got briefed on it. Well, look, it was my staff reads these things. It may be addressed to me, but if I didn't learn about something I should have learned about, that's my staff's fault. The staff that he's talking about, people we know, Dave, that were briefed on this, include his own deputy attorney general. His own chief of staff was being briefed on this, and we're really supposed to believe that the people who are supposed to be advising him on things like Fast and Furious weren't?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but culpable deniability just goes out the window with this, and plausible deniability, that's the word I'm looking for. It goes right out the window with this. He has one of two options left to him. He can either admit, yeah, I made a mistake, I screwed up, I ramrodded this thing, or B, I'm completely stupid and I'm incompetent and I've been running this agency for 3 years and I'm a moron. I mean, the plate is clean otherwise. He's got two options left to him. He admits a mistake or he admits that he's an idiot.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to say it, but they've gone with the idiot option, or to be fair, there's also the incompetence / idiot option, and I guess they're sticking with incompetence at this point. I mean, we were playing this clip from March of 2009. I know you've seen this, Dave, then Deputy Attorney General David Ogden. The president has directed us to take action on the border. And the Attorney General and I are announcing new initiatives. And one of the things that he talked about, 100 ATF personnel to the southwest border region to fortify Project Gunrunner.
Yeah, I remember that. And, that thing is out there on the Internet. It's all over the place now. YouTube, I think there's 3 or 4 different YouTubes of it.
Yeah.
And it is very plain that the White House, even at that time, kind of had a hint what was going on down there, because they directed the ATF to send those extra 100 agents down there. They, at the same time, made darn sure that the attaché, the ATF attaché in Mexico, was kept dumb, blind, and stupid to this whole thing. They didn't tell their own people in Mexico City what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the earmark of an operation that they knew from the get-go, this is wrong, and we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when you look, Dave, at not just what was going on with Fast and Furious during this time frame, but what was going on with the Obama administration's attempts to push, let's say, the myth of the 90%. I believe it was February of 2009 when Attorney General Eric Holder called for reinstituting the semi-auto ban and was smacked down. And so then, again, 1 month later, it's okay, well, we got these new border enforcement efforts. And then a couple months after that, it's, 90% of the guns that are recovered in Mexico are traced back to the United States. A month after that, Operation Fast and Furious begins. But we're supposed to believe there was no connection between any of that.
Well, I tell you, that seems to be the problem with the left. They must think that the American public and investigative reporters like Cheryl Atkinson, like me, like William Lajeunesse over at Fox News, like Codrea, Vanderbo, who actually dug this story up, they must think that we're as dumb and stupid as they are. When you pull this stuff, eventually somebody's going to find out, and it's going to be somebody to whom your threats or your power or your juice means nothing. Reporters who are working on this story have really done what reporters should be doing all the time. I'm so proud of these guys that are really working this story hard. It makes me feel like, hey, journalism is back to where it's supposed to be. We're digging up the dirt, and we're finding out who the bad guys really are. And this story has morphed from just a federal murder investigation back in December of 2010 into a major league scandal. And the Obama administration, they've been worried, gee whiz, we don't want a scandal attached to us. I'm sorry, but you got a scandal attached to you, and it's not Solyndra, it's Fast and Furious.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's been interesting to watch how these scandals have sort of piggybacked over the last couple of months. There'll be a week where there'll be a lot of Solyndra news, and then all of a sudden, a lot of Fast and Furious. It does seem to me, and I don't think it's just because, we focus on these issues. While there has been, some revelations with Solyndra, including the one of the DOE folks, the Department of Energy guys who was, I guess, approving the loan, stepping down last Friday. The Fast and Furious scandal itself, I think, is a bigger deal because people have died and nobody died in Solyndra. But clearly, I think that the story itself and the Obama administration's response to this is now becoming a bigger story and a bigger scandal than Solyndra.
Well, it is, and remember what we learned in Watergate. Now, I think we talked about this the last time. These guys didn't learn anything from Watergate. The rest of us did. The cover-up is always worse than the crime when you do the stuff that they've been doing. And yes, you're right. This is worse because people have been getting killed, and they're still getting killed by these hundreds, perhaps a couple of thousand guns still floating around out there. We don't know where they're at. We've recovered a few hundred of these guns, but we haven't recovered all of them. And as long as any of these firearms are out there, they're probably going to be used for the wrong purposes, and people are going to suffer for that. The most astonishing thing that I think that we need to keep in perspective is that Fast and Furious has been revealed as an operation that they wanted these guns to go south, and then they were going to track them and find out where they showed up. Well, guess what? They showed up at crime scenes. And when you recover a gun at a crime scene, typically it's been used and probably on somebody whose body may be laying 10 or 12 feet away, because these gunmen, once they shoot somebody, it appears to be typical that they just drop the gun and leave it because they got other guns out there waiting for them. They drop the gun, get away from them, distance themselves from the firearm, they walk. And so we've got all these guns showing up down there at crime scenes. Some of them are Fast and Furious guns. Some of them seem to be coming from China or Ecuador or some other place on the planet. But the guns that they trace back to Fast and Furious, yeah, we know where they're at because we've been finding them with a bunch of dead people down there. That's abysmal for an administration to be involved in something like that. And I'll tell you something else, too, and I've discussed this with some of the other reporters that have been working on this. If there was a Republican in the White House right now, this would be front-page news in the New York Times, the Washington Post, every place you'd see it. NBC would be leading with it night after night after night after night.
I'm laughing because, you know, the one time in, I think, the past 3 months that the Washington Post decided to cover this story is when they could try to pin this on President Bush.
Well,
you know, when the administration came out last week and said, well, there was this other program called Operation Wide Receiver that was going on before we were even in office, and there was, you know, a lot of similarities, almost the exact same thing. The Washington Post ran a story, quote, this is the headline, "Calm down about Fast and Furious gun sting, ATF acting director says." And that's where Sari Horwitz, the Pulitzer Prize-winning plagiarist for the Washington Post, talked about Operation Wide Receiver, which, you know, Dave, I know you've reported on this. The more you dig into that operation, the less actually it looks like Fast and Furious.
Well, yeah, and people got arrested, and the guns were interdicted, and nobody got killed. I mean, that's really the big point here. Nobody got killed, and now we've got a federal agent who's died because of this. We've got, I think, in excess now of 200 Mexican citizens who've been gunned down, maybe caught in crossfires down there. Who knows how many bad guys have been killed? And you know, maybe the world is better off without them, but still, those guns are out there causing mayhem, and this administration let that happen, and they're trying to blame everybody else for it.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, Dave, I'm glad you could join us tonight, sir. There's just always a new top to this story, so I know we'll be talking again very soon, but keep up the fantastic reporting, will you?
Well, it's very kind of you, and I must say that being in the company of people like Cheryl Atkinson at CBS and William Lajeunesse, you know, there's just a handful of people reporting on this, and I will tell you, this is just a hint. Keep your eye on Darrell Issa this week. If subpoenas come, I think they're going to be blockbusters.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again soon.
You bet.